All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start our first lecture. Today, this is the digestive system. This is chapter 14. Now, children are fascinated by the workings of the digestive system. They relish crunching a potato chip, delight in making mustaches with milk, and giggle when their stomach growls. As adults, we know that a healthy digestive system is essential for good health because it converts food into the raw materials that build and fuel our body cells. Specifically, the digestive system takes in food, that means it ingests it. It breaks it down into nutrient molecules, which is digested. It absorbs the nutrients into the bloodstream, that's absorption, and then rids the body of the indigestible remains, and that is defecation. We can separate the organs of the digestive system into two main groups, those forming the alimentary canal and the accessory digestive organs. The alimentary canal performs the whole menu of digestive function: ingests, digests, absorbs, defecates, all of that, as it propels those foodstuff along its tract. Now, the accessory organs, such as the teeth and the tongue and several large digestive glands, assist the process of digestion breakdown in various ways, and we will describe these shortly. Now, the human digestive system, this is what you're looking at. This is the alimentary canal and the accessory organs. You can see that the liver and the gallbladder are reflected superiorly and to the right side of the body. The alimentary canal, also called the gastrointestinal tract or gut, is a continuous coiled, hollow muscular tube, and it winds through the ventral body cavity from the stomach to the anus. Its organs are the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and large intestine. The large intestine leads to the terminal opening or the anus. In a cadaver, the alimentary canal is approximately 9 meters, or about somewhere around 30 feet long. But in a living person, it's considerably shorter because of its muscle tone. Don't forget that. The lips protect its anterior opening, and the cheek form its lateral walls, the hard palate forms its anterior roof, and the soft palate forms its posterior roof. Now, the uvula is a fleshy finger-like projection of the soft palate, which extends inferior from the posterior edge of the soft palate. Da-da-da-da. Now, the space in between the lips and the cheeks externally and the teeth and the gums internally is called the vestibule. Now, the area contained by the teeth is the oral cavity proper. The muscular tongue occupies the floor of the mouth, and the tongue has several bony attachments. Two of these are to the hyoid bone and the styloid process of the skull. Right? Now, at the posterior end of the oral cavity are paired masses of lymphatic tissues called the palatine tonsils. The lingual tonsils covers the base of the tongue just beyond. And the tonsils, along with other lymphatic tissues, are part of the body's defense system. Now, this is a sagittal view of the oral cavity and the pharynx. And then in this figure, we can see the anterior view of the oral cavity. Now, as food enters the mouth, it's mixed with saliva and masticated, or chewed. The cheeks and closed lips hold the food between the teeth during chewing. And the nimble tongue continually mixes the food with saliva during chewing and initiates the swallowing process. Thus, the breakdown of food begins before the food is even left the mouth. Now, from the mouth, food passes posteriorly into the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx, both of which are common passageways for food, fluids, and air. The pharynx is subdivided into the nasopharynx, which is part of the respiratory passageway, and then the oropharynx posterior to the oral cavity, and the laryngopharynx, which is continuous with the esophagus below. Now, the walls of the pharynx contain two skeletal muscle layers. The cells of the inner layer run longitudinally, and those of the outer layer, the constrictor muscles, run around the wall in a circular fashion. Alternating contractions of these two muscle layers propel food through the pharynx into the esophagus below it. And later, we describe this propelled mechanism, and it's called peristalsis. And the esophagus, or gullet, runs from the pharynx through the diaphragm to the stomach. It's about 25 centimeters or 10 inches long. It is essentially a passageway that conducts food, don't forget, by peristalsis, to the stomach. Now, the walls of the alimentary canal organs from the esophagus to the large intestine are made up of the same four basic tissue layers, or tunics. Now, the first one here we're going to talk about is called the mucosa. Now, that's the innermost layer. It's a moist membrane that lines the cavity, or the lumen, remember the hole, of the organ. It consists primarily of a surface epithelium plus a small amount of connective tissue and a scantily smooth muscle layer. Beyond the esophagus, which has a friction-resisting stratified squamous epithelium, the epithelium is mostly simple columnar. Here you can see the basic structure of the alimentary canal. The submucosa is found just beneath the mucosa. It is a soft connective tissue layer containing blood vessels, nerve endings, mucosa-associated lymphatic tissues, and the lymphatic vessels. The muscularis externa is a muscular layer typically made up of inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle cells. The serosa is the outermost layer of the wall. It consists of a single layer of flat, serous, fluid-producing cells. The visceral peritoneum, now that visceral peritoneum is continuous with the slick, slippery parietal peritoneum, which lies the abdominal pelvic cavity by way of a membrane extension called the mesentery. So here we are again. We can see the layers of the alimentary canal. Now, the alimentary canal wall contains two important intrinsic nerve plexuses, the submucosal nerve plexus and the myenteric, or internal muscle nerve plexus. These networks of nerve fibers are actually part of the autonomic nervous system. They help regulate the mobility and the secretory activity of the GI tract organs, making it nice and slippery. So, key points. What are we going to know for lecture number 1? What is the sequential order, mouth to anus, of the digestive organs making up the alimentary canal? What organs make up the digestive system? What names are synonyms of the digestive system? And the last but not least, the GI tube tissue layer responsible for the action of segmentation and peristalsis is called, I don't know. You better tell me. All right, this is the end of lecture number 1.